Our service is about to begin. I would ask if you have a cellular device to please turn it to the off position. Officiating our service today from Anshe Emet Synagogue will be Rabbi Michael Siegel, Cantor Rachel Brook, Rabbi Dror Chenkin Gould, Rabbi Benji Forrester, Cantor Elizabeth Burke. Rabbis, Cantor.
שיר למעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני עושה שמיים וארץ. הייתן למות רגליך, ינום שומרך. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם.
Psalm 121. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm and guard your life. God guards your going and your coming, now and forever.
Psalm 23. Adonai roi lo achsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot, ינהלני. נפשי ישובב ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רק אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני, כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
In your handout, you'll find the words of the 23rd Psalm. Please join me in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
The word for wonder in Hebrew is yirah. Yirah can mean a beautiful event that cannot be fully captured in words. But yirah can also be used for an event so terrible, so shocking, that we are dumbstruck, where words fail us. Today marks an event of yirah, where no words can capture the shock, the unfairness, and the deep and abiding sense of loss. But here we are, remembering Milosz. Sometimes when we are failed by words, the Torah, our scriptures, speak to us. They give us the words to raise us up and to capture this moment. And that idea of looking to ancient texts spoke to Milosz in a very deep way. As an intellectual, as a perpetual student, as a lover of the Word, this would be an approach that would speak to him. And so we honor his memory with words of Torah, words of Scripture. And the Torah speaks to us today as the Jewish people are focused in the latter part of the book of Exodus as we read of the building of the Mishkan, the indwelling place of God. The place where God would make God's presence known. And as we open the Torah reading for this week, we are focused on Ki Tisa, the portion that tells us that every Israelite was required to bring a half shekel to support the building of this indwelling place for God's presence and this meeting place between God and Israel, the ultimate expression of community. And the lesson of the half shekel for our tradition is that every person could participate. Not simply the priests and the Levites, but every person had something to contribute, something meaningful to give, something that was needed by this larger enterprise. Now tell me that that doesn't speak to Milosz. He was the consummate half shekel, always wanting to participate, always wanting to give of himself. But the deeper lesson of the half shekel is that the Torah chooses a half, not a whole shekel, to remind us that we can never be fully whole if we're not joining together. It's not just us bringing the half shekel, but others bringing the half shekel and us finding each other and creating something fully whole. Milosz built communities. He looked for others to join together with. He made a difference at the Anshe Synagogue. I can say that Milosz spent more time in that congregation than all of the clergy combined. He was never not there. And when he wasn't there, he was at base, building community. He made a difference in our community. But there's something else in our Torah reading that speaks to this man, just speaks to the fire that was burning inside of him. In our Torah reading, Moses ascends to the top of the mountain. Moses ascends, and we also see that human beings are fallible. It tells the story of the golden calf. And when it tells the story of Moses ascending again and winning the forgiveness of God, that all of us are flawed. All of us are in need of forgiveness. And God teaches us that we are worthy of that forgiveness, and part of that ascent is how we rise up in our lives. And Milosz ascended. And the ultimate moment of ascent was something that many of us witnessed on a Shabbat morning, when he and a number of those who have come under the wings of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, those who have entered Judaism by choice, were given their Hebrew names. And Maya, you were there, and Malgorzata, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Milosz's mother was there. And I, and along with the other clergy, could see their faces from the bima. And they were so proud, because they saw what it meant to Milosz. And he was given an aliyah to the Torah. In other words, when we are called to the Torah, we walk up and we ascend with Moses. And the Torah tells us that when Moses had this experience at Sinai, there were karnei or, there were beams of light showing from his face. And I can tell you that he was beaming. It was a seminal moment in Milosz's life. And amidst the tragedy of this moment, and it is a tragic moment, I keep that picture in my mind of him standing in front of the Torah and offering his Hebrew name for the first time, and this moment of ascent. Milosz left this world ascending. He was in ascent. He was as fulfilled and as happy, as complete as he had ever been in his life. And we need to hold on to that as well. This human embodiment of a half shekel was an ascent. And in the midst of the yirah of this moment, let us hold on to the wonder that Milosz felt at this time of his life. Amen.
The Hebrew word for a funeral is levaya, which actually means an accompaniment. The idea being, Milosz was with us to accompany so many of us in this room on different journeys and milestones in our lives, and we accompanied him as well. And even now, we continue to walk with Milosz and walk together as we bring him to his resting place today. And as we walk with Milosz, we walk with his memory, and we carry it close with us. And we walk also with his family, his beloved mother, Malgorzata, and Mateusz, and Maja, his siblings, and their families, and the extended family. We walk with you as we walk together with Milosz and his memory. So today, it will be our privilege to hear words of memory about a beloved son and brother, and we will hear first from Mateusz.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is an amazing turnout, and I'm sure that he even would have been surprised how many people came. But he truly embodied selflessness. He always strived to do well by others, onto others, so on and so forth. A philosopher once said that people are seeking happiness in life. And you can take different avenues to get it, but there are conditions that are set for what this happiness cannot be. It cannot be a materialistic thing. It cannot be wealth. And I believe Milosz found that happiness within this religion. He has always gave 110% to whatever he does. He always finishes what he starts. And I believe that that's exactly what happened here. He achieved the ultimate level of happiness in his life, and he was taken. So let this be a day of celebration. Celebrate his life. It's all right to be sad, but it's also all right to be happy too, within times of sadness. Because you have to hunt the good stuff, right? That's kind of like what essentially gets us through everything. I'm happy that I got to know him and be a mentor to him, especially when our father died. He didn't really have a father figure after that, so it was up to me to show him the way, and I'm happy to see the kind of man that he grew up into. A man of selfless service, a man with honor, a man with integrity, and a man with a heart that just keeps spelling out love to those around him no matter who you are. When I heard of his passing from my sister, it was different than when my father died. I had regrets after my father died for many years, last words, so on and so forth. You never really know when someone's going to pass, so that's why it's always important to treat every day not like it's your last, but to make it count, right? When he passed, I knew that it was different. Immediately, I felt shock, but then I felt a relief, as if I knew right then and there that he was in a better place. And someone cannot ask more than that as getting instant closure in a way. Because closure can take years, sometimes a lifetime. You live with these thoughts, these emotions, your whole life. You try to make sense of them. But right then and there for me, I knew that he was with God, and it was God's plan to take him at his happiest moment in life. He lived a long, full life. He didn't have any business that was still open. He closed everything. And I think he was all right with that. He knew that he could pass away at any time due to his condition, and he was okay with that as well. And that's why he loved so hard. And I just hope that he's hearing these words and seeing that everyone is here for him, for the family. That would mean the world to him. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mateusz. Now, beloved sister Maya.
Matt's definitely better at public speaking than I am. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Wow, my brother definitely has touched so many people's lives and makes me so incredibly proud of him, of what he has accomplished in such a short amount of time on this planet. He definitely was an amazing person, and he had a gentle and beautiful soul. He found joy in the simple things in life. For many of us, we need more to be happy, and for him, he didn't need much to be happy. He actually found happiness in helping others. Milosz he was always my little brother. I also helped raise him, so he felt like a son to me as well in a way. Always came to me for advice. Sorry. I'm very happy that I got to see him on Saturday and really see what he has worked for over the last few years, and got an understanding of why he really was on this path, and that really made him happy. Milosz loved learning. Education truly mattered to him, and he had an extraordinary mind. He graduated summa cum laude from Loyola University, Chicago, with a Bachelor's of Science in Cognitive and Behavioral Neuroscience, an achievement that made all of us incredibly proud. He dreamed of continuing his education and pursuing graduate school. Life required him to pivot at a time, but he never gave up on his goals. He was taking classes to become a pharmacist and was prepping to apply to University of Chicago this fall. Over the last several years, like I said, Milosz devoted himself deeply to his spiritual journey. Becoming Jewish was something he pursued with sincerity and heart. After years of study and commitment, he fulfilled his dream just 2 days before he passed. It brings us comfort to know he found the spiritual home he worked for so hard. Some of my favorite memories of Milosz are in our grandma's kitchen when he baked cookies with her. Those are the moments filled with laughter, warmth, and family. He also loved trains and public transportation. He knew CTA better than anyone. Every train line, every route, and simply being part of the movement of the city brought him joy. Music was another huge part of who he was. No matter the genre, Milosz knew every song and lyric by heart. Some of our favorite moments were singing together, laughing, and knowing every word without missing a beat. Those are memories I will carry with me forever. Milosz always came to me for advice, and like many younger brothers, he drove me a little crazy by leaving everything until the last minute. But that was part of him. He trusted that I would always be there, and I always would have been. What I will remember mostly about my brother is his sincerity. He loved deeply, purely, and without judgment. He taught us to slow down and appreciate life's pleasures. Milosz had so many dreams still ahead of him. His life was taken far too soon, just before his 26th birthday. But the love he gave us does not disappear. It lives on in our memories, in our family, and in the stories we will continue to share. Milosz, you were not only my brother, you were like my son, and one of the greatest loves of my life. Thank you for trusting me, for laughing with me, for singing with me, and for allowing me to walk beside you through life. I will carry you with me always, in every song we sing, every train that passes, and every memory that still makes me smile. We love you endlessly. We will miss you forever. Your memory will always be a blessing. Rest in peace. Abihai. I love you.
Thank you, Maya. And now our beloved mother, Malgorzata.
Ja będę mówiła po polsku, bo są tu osoby, które mnie zrozumią. To jest coś okropnego. To jest coś okropnego.
This is something horrible.
Stracić syna,
To lose a son
w jego 25. urodziny.
on his birthday.
Chciałabym tak bardzo wiele powiedzieć.
She would like to say so much.
Ja nie mam chyba organów w środku we mnie. Jestem chyba tylko powleczona skórą.
She said that she feels hollow as if she's only wearing her skin.
Podnosi mnie na duchu fakt,
What lifts her up is the fact
że nie cierpiał.
that he didn't suffer.
Nie będę się długo rozgadywać,
She's not going to dwell on it too long
ponieważ mój ból
because her pain
jest tak okropny,
is so terrible
że po prostu nie mogę mówić.
that she simply cannot speak.
Dziękuję.
Thank you.
Thank you. In chapter 2 of Pirkei Avot, a collection of teachings from ancient Jewish sages, we hear about the 5 disciples of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan was a tremendous sage who lived about 2,000 years ago, and whose brilliance and boldness enabled Judaism to survive the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Pirkei Avot lifts up the identities and qualities of his students as a way of honoring Rabbi Yochanan's legacy. Because any teacher's greatest joy is to shep nachas, to rejoice and bask in the greatness of his or her students. Rabbi Yochanan had many students, and Milosz Krzewinski had many teachers. Milosz imbibed Torah with an unquenchable thirst. He sought out Jewish learning opportunities wherever and whenever he could. He learned with Jewish professors at Loyola, with Rav Moshe at Base Logan Square. I want to acknowledge Rav Moshe is here, as well as our colleague and member Rav Jonathan Posner as well from the Base community. He learned with us at Anshe Emet Synagogue, with our clergy and our lay educators, and in many other places too. And as Maya mentioned, Milosz was also a gifted student in his academic pursuits. So trust me when I say that there are many, many people who have been lucky enough to call Milosz his student or her student, and to revel in his growth and accomplishments. I consider myself blessed beyond words to count myself amongst them. And perhaps it's for that reason that I found myself turning to this teaching about Rabbi Yochanan's 5 students this week as I sat with the heaviness of the loss of my student and my friend Milosz. As I mused on the different identities and attributes of these 5 illustrious students, I saw echoes of the many dimensions of our dear Milosz. I want to explore these various sides of Milosz together today as we pay honor to his memory and as we celebrate his legacy. So here are Rabbi Yochanan's 5 students, in whose epithets we hear echoes of the various dimensions and great qualities of our dear Milosz. Number 1, Rabbi Joshua. Happy is the woman that gave birth to him. Number 2, Rabbi Yossi, a pious man. Number 3, Rabbi Simeon, a man who fears sin. Number 4, Rabbi Eliezer, who is like a plastered cistern that doesn't lose even a single drop of water. And number 5, Rabbi Elazar, who is like a spring of water that ever gathers in its force. So let's begin. Rabbi Joshua, about whom it is said, happy is the woman who gave birth to him. Because while Milosz was a student to many and a friend to all, he was a child to just one woman, Malgorzata. We have been so blessed to hear from Malgorzata today, as well as from Maya and Mateusz. Malgorzata and Milosz shared a special bond. Ever since he was a child, Milosz had quirks that marked him as slightly different from her older kids and from many of the older children. As just one example, this 3rd child never crawled. He just tumbled around for months and months and months until one day he decided to walk. When Milosz's epilepsy first appeared as a young boy, Malgorzata attended to him with care and also with fear. She saw how precious this child of hers was, and she supervised him with great attention. Thanks to her devotion, his epilepsy was brought under control and remained that way for many years. In this most recent chapter of life, Milosz and Malgorzata lived together under one roof once more. Their relationship had not always been as close as it was these past few years, but each have let the other in, and they cared deeply one for the other. Malgorzata worked so hard to make herself the mother that Milosz needed, and her hard work allowed him to trust her and to build a deep and open and loving relationship. Malgorzata raised her family in a loving home, even as they faced a variety of challenges. Despite those challenges, they still played cards and board games like Trouble. They went on trips and outings. They had a blow-up pool in the yard. This family looked after one another. Especially with Milosz's father passing in 2012, he came to see Maja and Mateusz not only as siblings, but also as sort of an extra set of parents. Maja would give him care and advice, and their quality time together continued into adulthood. In her own words, Maja shared, "I would give anything for him." And Matt looked after Milosz as kids and even into high school, helping build Milosz's confidence, resilience, hobbies, and peer network. Matt was a role model, a protector, and a friend to your beloved brother. The love of Milosz's family was unwavering and unlimited. And it was not a guarantee that that would be true. Malgorzata could have accepted the emotional distance between her and her son. Maja could have opted out of a close connection because so many years stood between them. Mateusz could have kept his space from this quirky little brother. But each of you chose love at each and every step. When Milosz came out to you and shared that he is attracted to men, you chose love. When Milosz shared with you that he was pursuing a conversion to Judaism, you chose love. When he asked to hang not one, not two, but 5 mezuzahs in your home, Malgorzata, you said yes, because you chose love. And when Milosz passed away unexpectedly and tragically this past week, and you had no idea what to do, you reached out to his synagogue to understand all of the rules and regulations of Jewish death and burial, because even now and forever, you choose love. About Rabbi Joshua, it is said, "Happy is the woman that gave birth to him," and to that we might add, happy are his siblings who were lucky to have him as their baby bro. The next student of Rabbi Yochanan was Rabbi Yossi, about whom it is said he was a pious man. Milosz is the definition of piety. As rabbis and cantors, we interact with hundreds of Jews each week. But I can say with confidence that I can't think of anyone whose passion for his faith and his religious practice was as deep and as true and as life-giving as it was for Milosz. Milosz first found Judaism towards the end of high school and into the beginning of college, when a Jewish professor took him under her wing and started teaching him more about Judaism. He knew that he had found his community and his God. That teacher helped connect Milosz to Jewish life on campus, which ultimately led to his involvement at BASE and then the JBC conversion program at Anshe Emet. Milosz attended every class, he read every book, and he joined in every conversation. He was a mainstay in our parasha class on the weekly Torah portion, the weekly Torah reading, in our sanctuary services, and at our young adult programming. And I know that the same is true at Base Logan. He learned so much so quickly, and he did so without even a hint of haughtiness. He was thoroughly humble through and through. In fact, his drive was actually an inspiration to many. Whether somebody who was just getting started in the Jews by Choice program, exploring the teachings of Judaism for their first time, and all the way up to the rabbis and cantors. Milosz's enthusiasm was contagious, and it helped renew my own sense of wonder and joy in Jewish faith and practice, and I know that I'm not alone. When reviewing his essays for his Beit Din, the culminating moment of his Jewish journey, I noticed that he drew an analogy between his Jewish faith and sense of obligation to God's commandments and the experience of doing homework. I pushed back and said, "Milosz, this gives me the impression that Judaism is like a chore to you." And he said, "Oh no, sorry, Rabbi Benji. I should have been more clear. I love homework." He told me that homework keeps him busy, it expands his mind, and most importantly, it conveys a sense of honor and builds relationship with his teacher, his instructor. Celebrating holidays, praying, doing mitzvot, commandments, these expanded his mind and his heart, and he knew that they brought him closer to God. Many of us can share our own stories of ways we co-traveled with Milosz on his Jewish journey, of classes and conversations, services and Shabbat dinners, and even trips to New York and DC. However, to fully illustrate the depths of Milosz's piety, I want to share a discovery that his family made while going through his belongings this week. They found a journal in which our pious Milosz carefully tracked his paychecks. And for each paycheck, he indicated the allocation that he would make to tzedakah, to charity, as well as the money he would set aside to continue building his Jewish library and collection of Judaica. I can't say I'm surprised, but hearing this about Milosz still takes my breath away. He embodied the great prophetic summons from the mouth of Micah. You have been told, O mortal, what is good and what God requires of you, only to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. That is Milosz. Like Rabbi Yochanan's second student, Milosz was a pious man. The third student, Rabbi Simeon, was a man who feared sin. This quality is an extension of Milosz's piety. I'll only add here that Milosz took very seriously the impact of his actions in the world. When he hurt people, he strove internally and externally to work towards repair. When he came to synagogue for his first Yom Kippur service on the Jewish Day of Atonement, Milosz wept. He had no idea at that point what any of the words meant that were being chanted. But he was so grateful to have a container to place the sadness that he felt for hurting other people, as well as a tradition that could lift him back up so he could learn lessons and grow from those mistakes. The fourth student, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, is described as a plastered sin which doesn't lose even a single drop of water. The metaphor here speaks to the unique ability for retention of information, where not even a drop can get out. For those who knew him best, and Maya touched on this earlier, this is the perfect description of Milosz. Milosz had a savant-like ability to hold vast amounts of information. From a young age, he was memorizing the Chicago bus and train schedules, and he could even draw out the maps of their movement from memory. He was gifted at math, and he could regurgitate diagrams of molecular models, again, from memory. Maya's fiance, Mike, recalled that Milosz knew every song from every genre. They were all memorized. I didn't realize that Milosz had such a mind for music, and something that I definitely didn't know, but I feel that it is my obligation to share with all of you today, is that Milosz was an incredible master of the video game Guitar Hero. And I don't mean he was the best one in the friend group. My understanding is that he was ranked as one of the best Guitar Hero players in the world. Milosz's impeccable memory extended not only to information, but also to the events in his life. Psychologists and neurologists like Milosz would describe this as having not only near-perfect semantic memory, but also near-perfect episodic memory. Maya shared that Milosz would often remember moments in other people's lives better than they would remember those moments themselves, about themselves. And Matt reflected that Milosz could never have been bored, because he could just scroll through the memories of the good times as if he was hitting next video on YouTube for hours and hours. Milosz, like Rabbi Eliezer, was a plastered cistern taking in liquid and never letting it out. The truth is, Milosz not only had a special heart and a special soul, but Milosz also had a very special brain. Milosz studied neuroscience in his undergrad and he might have continued into a PhD program where there are not cuts in funding to research in recent years. And he studied neuroscience because he wanted to understand the brain, but really, he wanted to understand his own brain. His brain that gifted him with memories and talents, his brain that thirsted for knowledge, and his brain that plagued him with seizures. He wanted to understand the brain, his brain, not just out of academic intrigue. He did so because he wanted to be able to help other people. Because as much as Milosz took in, he was fundamentally a giver. And that brings us to the fifth and final student of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, who is compared to a Ma'ayan HaMitgaber, a well of water that is constantly replenishing itself, bubbling up and building its force. While the fourth rabbi is like a sponge that soaks up and doesn't let out, the fifth rabbi is more like a fountain or a spring whose waters flow and replenish and are able to nourish others. Bless you. Milosz did not just fill his own cup. He did not just soak things up and store them inside. Milosz gave. He gave abundantly and generously. He tutored for free. He volunteered. He baked hamantaschen and handed them out to those in need and engaged them in conversation. He showed up. He loved. And he cared for. I don't think there is a person in this room who wasn't the beneficiary of Milosz's immense warmth and care. And the more he gave to others, the stronger Milosz's fountain of water grew. And the thing to know, and the thing to remember about a Ma'ayan HaMitgaber, an expanding fountain of water like Milosz, is that it endures even now. While we miss him dearly, we know that the sweet waters of his soul endure in us and through us. It is up to us to keep his water growing and flowing. So I want to challenge everyone here. For Milosz, do a mitzvah. Kiss a mezuzah. Come to shul. Learn some Torah. Hear the Megillah and pass out hamantaschen. Make a new friend. Help someone in need. Call your mother. Make your siblings laugh. Milosz stood at the Torah just over a week ago, as Rabbi Siegel mentioned, marking the culmination of his journey to become Jewish. It was his dream come true. And we can all take comfort in knowing that when he reached that milestone, he fulfilled years of yearning and hard work. Milosz proudly accepted his Hebrew name, Avichai Yisrael, the one who honors his father and his family, the one who wrestles, the one who strives, the one who grows. He wore his beautiful black and white talit, and he is wearing it now. And even now, when it feels like his journey is ending just as it was getting started, I want to encourage us to remember that when we channel the values and the spirit and the commitment of Milosz, Avichai Yisrael ben Avraham v'Sara, we enable his journey to go on, his waters to continue to flow. Together we allow his memory to always endure as a blessing. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of our student, our teacher, our friend, our brother, and our son, Avichai Yisrael, our dear Milosz, always be for a blessing. Amen. I invite everyone to rise as you are able for a memorial prayer.
מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המסה מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת אביך ישראל בן אברהם ושרה שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן.
The English translation is found inside your handout. Please join me. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Milosz Krzewinski, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. Amen.
This concludes our service here in the chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family plots at Waldheim Jewish Cemetery in Forest Park. Please note that the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to Anshe Emet Synagogue. That information is on your folder. For those of you who are online, that information is available on our website. For those of you who are going in procession with the family to the cemetery today, please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker. That sticker should be placed in the front passenger side of your windshield. We would also ask that you have your bright headlights and hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags throughout the procession. As we drive in procession today, please drive as closely as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you. This is especially important as we move through intersections. We want to avoid any large spaces or gaps in the procession. In just a moment, I'm going to invite the pallbearers up, and I'm asking everyone to rise. Pallbearers will be Matt Sicker, Antonio Miscelani, Angel Rose, Charles Basson, Mike Manchester, John Manchester, and Carlos Batista. At this point, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise and pallbearers to step forward.
יושב בסתר עליון יצא שדי גברה עמד לאדוני מקסים סעודתי אלוהי יפתח בו כי הוא יחזירך מדרכך מדברך